Webinar. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have everybody with us this evening here in Israel, afternoon in the East Coast of the States, and good morning on the West Coast. Thank you all for joining. My name is Jay Shofet. I direct partnerships and development for SPNI. Here tonight with Gitit Weisblum, who's SPNI's lobbyist. So excited for our conversation tonight. Gitit and I will be having a conversation about her job, one of the most interesting jobs, I think, on the Israeli scene. I think one of the most interesting jobs in SPNI, and something that we don't talk about much in this webinar, in these webinar series. You've all seen our beautiful pictures of the bird migrations and the gazelles and the turtles and the marine life and the wetlands that we're rewilding. Tonight's just going to be a conversation about the people and the ways we influence policy of Israel, the Israeli government, the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli ministries, the relevant ministries. We'll be getting going in just a couple minutes. Welcome, everybody. We're still climbing, close to 50 people here already. And we're live on Facebook as well. So welcome to the Facebook community. We're going to get going in just a few minutes. You might have seen some slides on the screen before. Avi Sadiv, who's doing our back office in Canada, from our executive director of CSPNI, Canadian Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, doing back office as usual. Thank you, Avi. And he'll put up again some slides that we've produced that kind of encourage you to come to Israel and support us. There's a donation link in the chat feature. So please, we appreciate very much everybody's support and interest. The fact that so many of you tune in from everywhere, from all over the world. Please, in the chat feature, you can let us know where you're from, as many people are, from Miroslav in Belgrade. I don't think you've missed a webinar, Miroslav. You might be replacing me in this job. And Michigan and Joburg and Gambia. Welcome from Gambia. I'm not sure we've had anybody from Gambia before, unless you've been here. Canada, many people from Toronto. Thanks very much to our lay leaders, our boards, and our affiliate organizations in Canada, in the United States, and in the United Kingdom, and in France. We appreciate very much everybody's work and effort to spread the word of our work and to raise money and interest in the environmental issues we face here. Again, it's our honor and our privilege to be doing this, and we appreciate everybody tuning in and giving us a piece of your Sunday. So I think we're going to get going now in just a minute or two. Remind everybody that we're open, we're back, we're here to visit. We're right now, my staff and I are dealing with many of you supporters from all over the world that are coming to Israel this summer, that have just come in the spring, the peak of the migration season, and we're happy to hook you up with some incredible inside nature tours. Our birders are always available. We have incredible birders, and there's incredible birding sites from the Hula to Eilat and everywhere in between, Magan Michael and Kfar Rupin. And many of the supporters, some of you I think are on already tonight, have been to those places and can attest, especially in the spring and the fall, but really throughout the year. There's just so much to see. And right in Jerusalem, everybody comes to Jerusalem, and right next to the Knesset, where Gitit works, is an incredible spot. Gitit will talk about it a little bit. The Jerusalem Bird Observatory, and also the Gazelle Valley in Jerusalem, an incredible urban nature spot, a world-class urban nature spot where we breed gazelles to rewild them. We rewild habitats and we rewild biodiversity. It's not enough for us to just protect nature anymore. We need to, in places where the nature isn't strong enough, we need to recreate it, rewild it. Just one of the many things we'll probably talk about tonight. And I think we'll get moving. Thanks everybody who's already greeting us in the chats and additional places. I see there's people from Lenox, Mass, and Toronto, and of course, New Mexico, where we have a couple of board members. I'll be in New Mexico with Dan Alone, our Deputy CEO here of SPNI. We'll be traveling, we'll be in the Bay Area next week, and then New Mexico, then New York area, and then Toronto. So hope to see some of you in person. Anyway, Gitit, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Hi.
Hi. Gitit is coming to us from her home in Moshav near the airport. True? Is that true? Is that where you are?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll let her introduce herself, but I'll just say that it's a pleasure working with her. She's a full-time lobbyist and also in charge of our government relations. And in general, deals with the policy making from the point of view of the people who make the policy and connects them to our incredible field staff and our headquarters where our naturalists and ecologists and educational experts help Gitit figure out what policy we're working on any given moment. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. We'll talk for about 45 minutes or so. And please, if you have questions, you can write them in the question and answer feature. We'll try to find them in the chat. I'll relay your questions and get Gitit's answers after we finish our discussion. But I hope we'll touch on a lot of the issues you want to talk about. So Gitit, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a witching hour for mothers of young kids, and we appreciate the fact that I guess your parents are probably putting the kids to bed or something. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in SPNI?
Okay, so first, thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for joining this webinar. It's very exciting to be here. I have to say, to see all the people from all over the world coming to hear about the SPNI activities, and especially my activity, is really exciting, and thank you for being here. I want to say that my English is not so good, but I want to tell you that my Hebrew is really fluent. So I'm doing my job in Hebrew really good. Okay, so please don't think that my English inflects about my job in Israel. Okay.
Your English is fine, and we heard that you were an Iris Han, who is on our webinar tonight as well, listening in. Told me that in Glasgow, where you were with our delegation for the climate change talks, you spoke English fluently. So.
Okay, so I'm 43 years old. I'm 17 years in the SPNI. I work 17 years already. I'm like an old bird in the SPNI. I started, I live in a Moshav, as Jerry said, in Moshav. It's a little a village, an agriculture village, right by the Ben Gurion airport. When you fly in or out from Israel, and you see the fields right when you land. So probably there are the fields outside my window, outside my house. This is where I grew up, but I've been to Jerusalem for a couple of years, and also Tkoa, the settlement Tkoa in Gush Etzion. And then I came back to live right next to my parents here in Tirat Yehuda. And actually, my parents are putting the kids back to sleep right now, and I'm enjoying being here with you. Actually, I came to the SPNI 17 years ago after I graduated my master's degree in Bar Ilan University. I did my master's in political science and communication, and I came to be part of the office of the spokesperson for the SPNI. I did my job there for 5 years, and after that, they called me to be the lobbyist of the SPNI. I was really gladly accepted the job. I'm coming from a religious Zionist family, a modern Orthodox, as you call it sometimes. Although there are not many religious people who are involved in the environmental movement in Israel, for my family, it's not very far away. For agriculture family who has plants, my father was one of the first teachers in Israel who really talked about ecology and environment. So we went protesting against Road 6, if you know it. So I knew about the environment, and I was connected to my job immediately. So this is how I got into the SPNI.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting backstory there. Your father was a religious Zionist ecologist and had a consciousness to be protesting Kvish 6, Road 6, so many, was it 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, I think. So, yeah, very interesting.
We went protesting against the Oslo agreements and against Road 6.
Okay, well, that was very common in your community.
Yeah.
But Road 6 was not. It wasn't even that common among environmentalists. I mean, you know, most people thought we needed more roads. So let's just get right to your job. Why does SPNI need a full-time lobbyist?
So as you know, the SPNI goal is to protect nature, and to do that, we use several tools. We use a legal tool. We use a educational tool. We use tourism. We use field school tours, and we use planning tools, and also we use lobby. The lobby is very important because we influence the decision making, and it's very important that we have lobby. Even when the first people of the SPNI, the founders of the SPNI, they did lobby themselves. Like when they wanted to save the hula swamp, they addressed themselves to the decision makers, and they influenced them to save some piece of the swamp, and it became the Hula Reserve Park. And this is how they kept some of the country in the first decades of the years of Israel, that everybody wanted to build another road, another city, another moshav, and more agriculture, more everything, development all over. They said, wait a minute, we need to think about nature. We need to think, why should we stay here? Why we love this country? And they use the lobby themselves, but the role for lobby is very, it's very old in the SPNI, because from the beginning, we knew that this is a way to influence decision making.
Interesting. So you mentioned that SPNI's founding story really began with lobbying the government to first not drain the hula, and then we spent a long time lobbying the government to reflood it, which has partially succeeded and created the Agamona hula that that's so important today. And that's exactly what we're doing in Startup Nature, by the way. But maybe tell us a little bit more about SPNI's history. What other lobbying efforts have come to fruition? Have we succeeded in, were we effective in over the years?
Okay, just wanted to say another more thing, that we know that there is lobbyists for the oil companies, for the gas companies, and they do a really good job, okay? But that the nature has lobbyists ourselves is very, very important to be a counter to this really, really great powers of the people who want to explore, לנצל.
To exploit the platform, or
nature, and we want to preserve it. So we have to be there and do our job to save nature. One of the most important rules of nature, where we promoted in the early years of the state, was the bill of wild animal bill, to save the wild animal bill, and also to establish the Israeli Nature and Park Authority. These rules really basically said what you can do in Israel nature places and what you can do. They put a list of nature values, flowers, wild animals, and they said these are protected, you can't touch it. For example, there was a very, very large movement that the people in Israel used to go out on Shabbatot and go out to the fields and pick wildflowers, just like that. And they took really big amount, Israelis, they took for free what's theirs. And after we saw that our founders, Amot Zehavi and Azaria Alon, saw that it's really, really bad for nature, that the flowers are we don't see any more flowers. So they did something in two ways. That there are two ways that we still use. One, they did a bill against picking up flowers, okay? This was really important because you need to say you can't do that. But the other was educational too, okay? They did a really, really big educational campaign in kindergartens to universities that said you must not touch the wildflower. And this campaign really, really worked. Like it really changed the behavior of all of the population in Israel, the campaign plus the bill, okay? So, and this is how we also try to do changes in Israel, because we know that bills alone are not enough. You need to educate people. You need to understand. They need to understand why they shouldn't do it. And I must say that I learned this campaign when I was in university learning marketing. Until now, from like 40 years ago, 50 years ago, until now, they're learning how to change people's behavior by this campaign, not picking the wildflowers. So these are two really, really big rules that since then they're really making the misgeret,
the framework of our legal work in Israel, of our political and policy work. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and also one newer from the 90s was the coastal protection bill. Until then, you could build everything you want on the beaches of Israel, and you can see like building really touching the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, exactly. And then we promoted the bill that saying you can't build between the 100 and 300 meters from the sea. And so they can't plan anymore building hotels in these areas, but also it made a change. It really did a revolution about the thinking about the Israeli asset, that the beaches are Israeli asset. It's public. It's not for who has more money to build an apartment on the beach or to build a hotel on the beach. It's not. It's for the public of the Israeli public. And until now, the fights over the beaches are the most Yitzriim,
emotional, the most yeah.
Because people are saying this is ours. This is the only thing that's left for us, open and natural, and we want to be on the beach, and we have long beaches. But when people are taking your right to be there, it's very, very hard. So they fight for it.
Absolutely, and we did this also on the Knesset and making sure the Knesset beaches were acceptable, the Sea of Galilee accessible to everybody. But there's an issue right now. We haven't discussed it. I haven't even discussed it internally with anybody in SPNI, but the Shvil HaChof. They're trying to create a way to walk the beach from Rosh Nikra to Ashkelon. And it's Haaretz just had a long article about it, even in English. Some of our listeners might have seen it, and there's a lot of places on the beach that are not accessible still.
Yeah, also in this evening on the news, it's going to be an article or film about how the trail around the Kinneret that we established is not open. Like, although we did it to open the shores for everybody, it's not open. People are taking it for themselves, and they put in a fence and not letting everybody walk through. And this is one of our goals to make the the nature more accessible for everybody.
It's a huge goal, and that's why you'll never be out of a job, because even when we win, we have to stay on guard and make sure that there's compliance and that there's continued compliance, and it doesn't, every battle we win, we have to fight against something. The Jerusalem Hills, I think people have been fighting the, you know, rampant development they want to do in the Jerusalem Hills for decades now, and every time we manage to succeed, it somehow rears its head again. So interesting.
Yeah, this is connected to another bill that was revolutionary, that MK, a member of the Knesset, Mossi Raz, promoted with us in the 90s, but today we want to expand it. It's a law that that gives a representative for the environment movement in the planning committees, and this is crucial because in the planning committees you plan how the land is going to look like, the open spaces, the buildings, the bridges, the roads, everything. And until then, we were out. We were shouting from the outside what we think we should do. We did a campaign. We tried to influence the decision makers, but until we have a finger, okay, that saying we have a voice that in the planning committees, this law let us in the big planning committees, the most important one, and SPNI represent the movement, the environment movement. So we have professionals in planning that doing amazing jobs, and they are more influence. They have more influence than anything in the committees, and they change everything. From the 19th, we see changing and more thinking about the environment.
Wow, I think that's really at the heart of everything that we do right there. When I talk to people abroad, I talk about, you know, how it really comes down to land use planning and our ability to, from the inside, influence the national and regional and municipal planning committees and master planning committees that Israel has for issues like energy infrastructure or forestry, for example. That we haven't been able to influence too much yet, the master plan for forests in Israel, but most of them, we have a great staff. And as you mentioned, I'll just make it clear to people. So the law that we helped promote, that Mossi Raz introduced back in the 90s, and then Mossi was out of the Knesset for 20 years and he's back now helping us, and hopefully it will last for a little bit longer. I understand we're trying to expand that law now, and I was going to say that. So the people, the environmental movement, the people of Israel get a voice, and that's through Chaim B'Sviva, the life and environment, the umbrella movement. And because we have the professionals who are planners who understand this stuff from the ground up, and we have a team of them on staff, we basically represent that movement and that umbrella group in the planning. And we're looking to expand the representation of SPNI in what kinds of places?
Yes, the original law of Mossi, he wanted to put representative and environmentalist representative everywhere, in every body that gets to decide about the country, everywhere. But the Knesset was like now really unstable, and he knew that he couldn't pass the law if it's going to be really wide. So we got into the planning committee, which was revolutionary enough. But now we want to make an amendment and to put representative everywhere, like in the electricity authority, in the gas authority, in the water authority, in the oil authority. Okay, it's really important that the voice of the environment, especially in these times of the crisis and the climate crisis, will be heard from the inside. The environmental issues is so important, and as we know, it's touching every aspect of our life, not only the planning.
Wow, interesting. So give us 2 or 3 of the top bills you're currently working on in the Knesset.
Okay, so we talked about the extension of the representative law, okay, for the environment, and if we could do that, it will be amazing. One of the laws that we are promoting with the member of Knesset, Gabi Lasky, also from Meretz, and Moshe Gafni, if you know, from Yahadut Torah, which is a really interesting combination.
From the Haredi party, United Torah Judaism.
Yeah.
Ultra-Orthodox party.
Yeah, he is known as Moshe Gafni, Rav Gafni, as we call him. He's known for his green views. It's very interesting. He was the one I told you about the coastal protection law. He was one of the He initiated it, okay? And he also really promote the SPNI, as he was in charge for the finance committee. He helped us a lot for getting money for our education programs. So it's really like we're not used to it, because I think religious people and ultra-religious people don't do that, but he's one of a kind. So now he's promoting.
Wait, Kiki, let me interrupt you for 1 second. We'll get back to the bills. I'll get you back on track. But just, I'm curious, like, what's it like being a Orthodox religious woman in this field and in this job, if I may?
For sure, yeah. A lot of eyes were opened when they saw me coming into the environment movement. Sadly, this movement is not it's not really we don't have a lot of publics from the Israeli sectors that are living, that act in the environment movement. It's sad, but when you see it's Chiloni and religious. It's left wing, okay. It's mostly more rich people, okay. So we see that this is, but it's kind of changing over the years. But when I came in, like 17 years ago, it was very strange. During the years I got married, I had my hair covered, so everybody was like shocked. And when I moved to a settlement, it was floss, very shocking. And I think that made people think that the environment and nature can be issue for more than one sector in the Israeli society. And when you talk to people that have other agendas, they have the Torah, and they have yeshivot, or they have settlements, okay, in the shtachim, as you call it, as I think of
issue. Some people call it.
Yeah, Yishuv Eretz Israel. This is their agenda, okay. But when they see somebody from their side, okay, who looks like them, who speaks their language, but if she tells them, I tell them, thinking about Eretz Israel is not only to build on settlements, to build in Yehuda v'Shomron. It's also to build to save the country. It's also to protect the nature. It's also to not letting anybody pollute the rivers. Okay, this is loving Eretz Israel. And when you talk to them like this, they understand, and they're more willing to hear what I'm saying than anybody else that comes from Tel Aviv and they're not related to him. So it's made my part more interesting, I think, and I think it's also opened people's minds. Also, my friends, my left-wing friends that saw me with my covered hair, and when they moved into Tekoa and Gush Etzion, they like saw that like they couldn't swallow it.
Uh-huh.
But they saw also that it's the same me. I'm talking their language too, the language of environment, the language that environments belong to everybody. If the water is polluted, if the air is polluted, if the beaches are taken by somebody else, and not the public, it's hurting everybody. It doesn't matter from where you come, what language you speak, who do you pray for. It doesn't matter. So I think it's unique. I'm in a unique position in the Knesset, which helped me a lot. Now I'm not covering my hair, so it's not because I'm not married anymore. So it's kind of hurting my job, but in other aspects, it's better. So, okay.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Very interesting insights. So getting back to the current bills you're working on, you mentioned the representation law. What else?
Yeah, I started to talk about Gabi Lasky and Rav Gafni bill that they promote with us. We wrote the law. We wrote the proposal of the law. It's better saying that because it's a proposal. It's not a law yet.
It's a bill. That's what a bill is. I think it's a bill that it becomes a law.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the bill saying that, like that. First, I will say that the state of the rivers in Israel is very bad. Like most of them are drained or polluted. You can't visit a stream or creek in Israel and not think about where the water came from, and most of the time they're not clear. Okay, and it's really bad. So we thought about a bill that's saying like that. Today, to put unclear water in the rivers, you need to get a permit from the water authority, okay? But you don't need to pay for it, okay? Unlike the situation in the sea where we are progressing, and if you want to put water in the sea that are not clear, you need to get permit and to pay for it. And that is why industries and regions and other companies that want to pollute or don't have what to do with the water, they would think twice before they pollute the sea, because they need to pay for it. They would think how they can clarify the water that they use, okay? And in the rivers, we don't have that. And this is what this bill comes to do. It comes to say, if you put in pollution, you pollute this creek, you have to pay for it. And we want to do that because we want the industries to think twice before they pollute, and to build מתקנים לטיהור שפכים.
Water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah, it will be more worth to them to do that instead of put it in the creek as they do now. It's so sad that it's still happening, but it's happening now. So we have the support of the environment minister for this law, but now we only need that the government will stick and the Knesset to stick to do that. And it's very important. Another bill that we are working on, it's an amendment to the law, as I told you about the law, the protecting nature, wildlife, wild animals. Okay, we have in the last year we had a lot of vultures getting poisoned during the farmers mostly in the north and in the south of Israel are suffering from the wolves and the jackals that come and eat their cattle, and they put poison on their fields in order to kill the jackals and wolves, which are also protected values. but they do that in order to save their herds. But the vulture are coming when the jackal is dying, is dead. The vulture are coming to eat it, and then we have another injured. Okay, and we have like dozens of vultures that have been dead in the last 2 years, and it's really scary and alarming because we don't have vulture here in Israel anymore. Like we import vultures just for keeping the few vultures that left. We have less than 100 vultures here in Israel, and each vulture is really important to us. So we want to make a bill that's saying that will help us catch the people that put the poison and to punish them בצורה יותר משמעותית.
More significant punishments.
Yeah, so we got the bill into the committee. We got the government to agree to this bill, and then the minister of agriculture decided that he's not letting this bill continue because he wants some authority that he don't have now about the wild animals. So he stuck the bill, and now we can't promote it anymore. And it's very frustrating because everybody's saying, yeah, we love the vultures, yes, we want to punish the poisoners, but when it comes to really promote something that can stop it, they don't do it because the fights for more power, and it's really frustrating. I hope we could pass this further, but it doesn't look very good.
So let's talk a bit about then exactly what you do in the Knesset and what your day looks like. But I'll ask specifically, maybe as a way to enter this topic. So the Minister of Agriculture is against it, but if all the other ministers are for it, doesn't the government have a majority say or an overwhelming? I mean, who's against stopping the poisoning of? I mean, I guess there's the farming lobby is the only people against it because they don't care about the vultures or the jackals. They just care about their cattle. So the Ministry of Agriculture has such power when it's clear what's the right thing to do.
Yes, and especially in this coalition, everything is about balancing. And they're saying, okay, I'll give you that, but you need to give me that. If I give you that, so you give me that. This government, as you know, is very tricky. We have 8 different parties participating in this very complicated government, as you know, which is very unstable. So it's enough that the minister is sending the chairman of the committee, and is saying, I don't like this law, don't promote it. So he's stopping. And This is something, as we talked before, this is something that's stuck in not only environmental laws or policies, it's stuck everything. This government did something during this 8 or 10 months that she's alive, but not a lot, because everybody is thinking about their interest and how they get in it.
Right. And everybody has to have their own little successes when they go into the next election campaign, which may be very soon.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of edges that we have to work on. So tell us about your a day in the Knesset for you.
Okay, so the Knesset works 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so most of the day, 2 or 3 days, I'm there. Okay, in the morning they have a sitting in the committees. They put bills to discuss and all kinds of issues that on the agenda of this day they're discussing it. All kinds of committees, the finance committees, the environment committee, the the economic committee, the education committees. Okay, we have this, this government has like 20 committees. It's a lot because they wanted to give jobs to everybody, okay? There are not enough Knesset members to be in this committees, but they have the head, they are the chairman of the committee, so it's important. So we have committees in the morning, but in the afternoon they have Knesset plenary. And they also discuss the bills, they vote for the bills, and also discuss all kind of subject that on the agenda of the day. They have queries to answer. Ministers are answering queries in this plenary, and this is how it goes for 3 days a week. In Sundays and Thursdays, they mostly have meetings outside the Knesset and tours that we are also doing them tours. And I will tell you about special one that took place 2 months ago. So I'm sitting in the Knesset, but I don't have, the lobbyists don't have an offices there. So my office is the Halavik, the milky cafeteria.
The milky cafeteria.
Cafeteria, yeah.
The dairy cafeteria.
Halavi, we call it. So this, yeah. So when I want to meet people, I'm telling them come to my office, and this is it's just a regular table on the cafeteria. And this is it sounds funny, but it's the best place on the Knesset. Like it's like a strategic view of where the Knesset members are walking or ministers are walking. Sometimes you can catch someone like them, some Knesset members sitting to eat, and then you can ask him nicely, politely, if you can join him and tell him about what you want for him. As you understand, you need to be a little bit chutzpanit to be a lobbyist. I need to use the Israeli chutzpah for it. It's not a role for somebody who's shy. My best appointments went when I stood with the minister on the way to the cash to pay for lunch, and they told him, listen, we can't get through to you from your secretary and get a meeting from you. Iris, you will remember it. She was shocked. She saw me doing that. She was shocked. And I told him, we can't get through your secretary. We are trying 2 months and we can't get an appointment with you. So he gave me the number of his assistant. So tell him I told you to make an appointment. And this is it's kind of a chutzpah, but this is how we get things done.
Absolutely. You didn't pick up his bill, did you? Mm-hmm. You didn't pay his lunch bill, did you?
No.
Okay.
I don't have money from the SPNI to pay.
No expense account for the Knesset. Okay. Tell us about the committee meetings. What are they actually? How does that work? What are they about?
It's about bills. The bills that comes to be discussed in the Knesset, they have to be voted in the plenary, and then they come into discussions. It depends if the bill is governmental or private. It's called that the MK promotes it, and then it comes to 1 or 2 discussions in the committees, and then they vote for it. The MKs vote for it in the committee, and then it's coming for a final issue.
Final passage.
Yeah, in the plenary. Most of the rules are you need a lot of discussions in the committee. Mm-hmm. They talked about every little word, every little phrase in the bill. They think about it because it's influenced a lot. But not only bills, also things on the agenda, like when we have the big fight about Qatar. I don't know if you talked about it in your webinars. The big agreement that the Qatar, the oil company from Israel that signed with the Dubai, with the Emirates companies to bring a lot of a big amount of oil from the Emirates through the Eilat Bay in a pipe from Eilat to Ashkelon, risking not only Eilat Bay, also the Negev, the Arava, the Mediterranean. It was a really, really big fight for like a year that we fought. We heard about it only after they signed it, and we called the government not to let this agreement take
effect.
Yeah. So we thought about it, and one of we initiate two discussion about it in the Knesset in order to influence the government to stop this agreement. So it was part of a campaign, of a really, really big campaign. We were the leaders, but a lot of environment organizations were with us in this. And one of the big changes that this government did, that the first thing that the Tamar Zandberg, the new, she's not so new now, the new Minister of Environment, said in her first בנאום הראשון שלה, first statement, she said, I won't let this agreement go through. I won't let it be. And it was a really, really big change of policy, because until then, the Ministry of Environment said, okay, maybe we will try to reduce the risk. We will see that nothing happened. This was the vibe, okay? And she said, no, it's not going to happen. And this is how she fought in the government, and we fought for it in the public against the voices in the government that said, yes, we need to let it be. And we also had a petition to Bagatz, to the Supreme Court about it. And the state said, after a long, long campaign, the state said in the Supreme Court, we are taking the side of the Ministry of Environment, and we say zero, how do you say it?
Zero additional risk to the Gulf.
Yeah, to Eilat Gulf, to Eilat Bay. And this was really, really big achievement to the environment organizations. And part of it was because of the member of the Knesset, we recruited them to help us. And the voices from the Knesset, they called their ministers from their parties to say no to this agreement. And after these discussions, it was published and everything. It was part of the campaign. So the parliamentary pressure on the government really helped us there. And this is part of what I do in the Knesset.
Interesting. I'll just say that pipeline issue is a good example of what we were talking about before, always having to be on guard. I mean, we passed the Knesset law, and now it's not being, people are not compliant with it. We sort of have killed that agreement, but it hasn't been officially canceled. And I understand one of the things we want to do in the international arena is to petition John Kerry and the U.S. Climate Office that he heads to work to help us create an international sanctuary for the Gulf of Eilat, not just the Gulf of Eilat, but the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea as well. So what starts in the Knesset hopefully will, as it often does, influence the entire region. We only have a few minutes left, so you need to be quick in this one. We have a lot of questions that have come up, and some of them are not quick questions. But just the final question. I want to ask a personal question at the end. So really, in 2 or 3 minutes, give us just a quick overview of the current Knesset, how you feel it's doing. Where do we stand? Are we having successes? What are the environmental efforts like?
Okay, so when there was suddenly finally there were government and there was budget, we were so happy because suddenly we could work. For 2 years we couldn't walk. There was like no budget, no policies making. It was very, very hard for us. So we were very happy. Plus we had a very good and committed a Minister of Environment, Tamar Zandberg. She used to be Chavrat Knesset, a member of the Knesset. I worked with her really, really closely. So we knew her. We have a really good Knesset members that work, that committed to the environment. And it's like we have like 8 or 10 people that really cares about the environment. It sounds not so much, but before we have like 3, okay? So this is a different Knesset from this view. But as I said, the government is really, really complicated. They can't really promote a lot of stuff. Like the Ministry of Environment is trying to promote the climate bill, but the Treasury and Energy Ministry are blocking it. So there are people in the government that really think that the climate is very important, and the other side couldn't care less. Okay, and they're trying to stop all progress in this area. So we need to see where this is going. But I have to say that I'm not very optimistic. I think that the 60-60 situation is really, really hard, and it's not going to last.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. You're referring to the fact that government was formed with just 61 seats, a 61-seat majority, and maybe it was formed with 62. I think it was formed with 61, but there's been a defector, and so the government is not alive, not dead. It's sort of like in some zombie state of they can't replace it, but it really can't be effective in passing laws. And that's true, as you mentioned, not just in the environmental sphere, but in a lot of spheres. And just quickly, though, we do have a sort of inside voice in the heart of the environmental ministry that you had something to do with.
Yeah, we have SPNI recruit, how do you say? Inside the office, the top advisor for the minister is Noah. She used to head our legal and climate departments, and now she's a counselor, top counselor for Tamar Zandberg. So she's helping us pushing nature higher in the agenda of the environment, because as you know, for the environment there are so many issues, and nature wasn't one of the tops in the last years, and she's helping us getting higher.
I mean, every time Minister Zandberg talks about the environment, she talks about nature-based solutions to climate change. It sounds like you or Iris is speaking.
Yeah, it's amazing. She understands completely. Yeah, she's been there. But when her advisor is from the SPNI, so we know that our messages will be clear, loud and clear in the office, and it's fantastic. They just need to stay there more longer.
Yes.
But
yes.
This is not in my hands.
Yes, nobody. It's really not anybody's hands that we can think of. We have a few questions. So in 1 minute, and then I'll just leave us about 5 minutes for questions. What do you like best about your job?
Except the people that they are the best people in the country that I really love, although they are very, very different from me in all kinds of aspects. I love it that I'm doing something that the goal is so good. I'm not lobbying for the gas or cigarettes or or anything else or commercial things. I'm lobbying for the public. I'm lobbying for my kids and your grandkids, and everything that I do will influence the way this country will look like in the coming years. So I think this is what I like the most.
Wow.
And of course, I love my CEO who is here. So
that's a good one.
As you see, I'm lobbying during this.
Excellent, good lobbying. And also, by the way, you also love, and I know because we've spoken about it, and I was on the outing that you held for the Environmental Caucus that went to the Jerusalem Bird Observatory in Gazelle Valley, and I saw your pride in showing them what we do on the ground in terms of urban nature. And I understand they went back to the Knesset and were influenced heavily by that.
Yeah, when I see that what we do when we're doing tours, as you know, when you tour, when you see something in your two eyes, you understand it better. And then when they're coming back to the Knesset and talking about what we talked about like half an hour ago, when they hold the bird in the Jerusalem Birds Observatory, this is amazing. Like you see the changes in your own eye, like in front of you, and this is amazing.
Wow. Okay, let's just get to a couple quick questions before we get to the thanks. There's really only 5 minutes left, but someone asked what could be done about air pollution in Israel. Really, the last couple of weeks have been terrible for people who have been out, and especially with people with lung conditions. The pollution and temperature inversion. I know it's not something that we concentrate on a lot, so I even hesitated to ask. But any thoughts about that? Do we have an active?
This pollution came from from the wind from the deserts. It's not from pollution. Okay, this was the weather. Okay, especially. But we have Haifa and we have other polluted places. We don't usually touch the pollution of the air because there are so many other organizations that deal with it. We deal with nature, and we are like, there's over than 120 organization of environmental group, environmental movement, and we are like, there are 2 maybe that deals with nature. So we are promoting the nature-based solution of the climate crisis in order that the open spaces, that the swamp, the wetlands will capture the pollution. We think this is one of the solutions, of the big solutions, of the major solutions for the climate crisis. Okay. But we don't usually really, we are always part of the coalition, but we don't lead it.
Who suggests the lists of plants, endangered plants and animals to be protected? Is that the Nature and Parks Authority that's in charge of that?
Yeah, they have scientist committee that suggests it. And when we are trying, every time we are trying to put more species in it, it's hard. It's hard because there are fishermen and there are hunters in Israel that don't like that we're saying to them, stop hurting nature and stop this lakhid.
The extinction.
Yeah. They don't like us to limit them, but and so it's hard to put more. But during the years, we added more and more species into this list.
Okay. What do you know about Alon Tal's new bill to promote common sense land use planning?
תתרגם לי.
I don't know. בחוק חדש של אלון על, לא יודע, שימוש חכם בייעוד קרקע. לא יודע.
We think that the planning should stay in the planning committees, but sure, because of the big crisis, the ecological crisis, we think that any tool that we can to protect open spaces and places that are really important to nature, we need to support it.
Absolutely.
And we are working with Alon Tal, with MK Professor Alon Tal, really closely. We are working together all the time to think about nature, how we preserve nature together.
Yeah. Cool. Miroslav asks, is there a political party in the Knesset which is more environmentally minded? I think you've mentioned Meretz several times. Of course.
Meretz is one of the tops. I'm not biased because I'm telling you the truth. Meretz, the left wing, okay? Meretz on the top, Avoda, Yesh Atid, Tikva, and also Kahol Lavan, which Alon Tal is part of. The other four major parties that they took it further. But you see, member of the Knesset from other parties also. It's not part of the party's agenda, but the people themselves are taking more responsibility. Like Gila Gamliel from the Likud, who used to be the Minister of Environment, she's now one of the head of the Environmental Caucus. So she's minded to it, and although she's from the Likud, she took it as a top agenda subject.
Right. But she's one of 30-something members of Knesset from Likud, and Meretz is, 3 of their 6 are your top environmentalists. So that's true. Quick questions. Ellen Werner, Giti didn't say that there weren't Orthodox Israelis who are interested in the environment. She just said that as a sector, it used to be very much so that they, especially the politicians and the political parties, didn't care about the environment. She said that's changing a bit, and I think views on the ground are changing a bit. Ellen writes that there's an Anglo-Dati community who are supporters of environmental protection and health. She knows many, including her kids in Pardes Chana. Yeah. For sure there are many. And I would also say maybe the Anglo-Datim are not representative of the rest of the...
I think it's changing. I'm really, really happy about it. And I think it will come from the public to the decision making, to the decision makers. When they see it's important to their public, they will start dealing with it too. And I'm seeing the changes. I see the activists. I see the kippot in the climate march more and more, but still it's not enough. It's not enough when we talk about our public, okay, that is really committed to a lot of things. I think we should have been more people who care about the climate, who care about the world, who care about the creation, who care about Eretz Israel. I think it's not enough, but it's changing and it's good, and we are optimistic.
Good to hear. Let's end on that note. Miroslav, I'll get back to you. We'll ask about the shepherds. Miroslav has an idea to compensate the farmers for their losses from jackals and wolves, maybe instead of fining them for poisoning. That's something that I'll ask Gitit about. I mean, Gitit can find. Do you know about it, Gitit? Is that anything that has come up? No.
I don't know.
No. But we'll ask our nature protection people. Miroslav, you can write us if you want to continue to discuss it. Gitit, thank you so much. We're a couple minutes overboard, but almost everybody that started with the webinar is still with us. It was very, very interesting, very enlightening. I enjoyed it a lot, and we will do it again. Next Knesset for sure, and if not, later in the year.
Next time in France.
Absolutely.
I love challenges.
You got it in English. You totally nailed it, by the way. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I hope the kids are in bed. And
I hope so too.
Yes, thank you very much, Avi, for our back office tonight. Thanks to all of you who joined, support us from around the world. Thanks to our board members and our own activists here in Israel and abroad. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning on the West Coast. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.